good? What's good? What's good? Another glorious evening, another glorious day. What's happening? You know what I'm saying? Just wanted to come through, check in real quick, and just, I guess get some feedback and speak a little bit about, this time of the season. It's been a definitely a winter to be reckoned with. Certainly, certainly. You know what I'm saying? This is one of those winters where uh, it's to be compared, or definitely, yeah, compared to the '90s. Those real winters that we endured, and that's definitely what's taking place right now. So, I was just wondering, you know what I'm saying, how the people is staying motivated. You feel what I'm saying? Staying the course. Standing firm on your square during this time. It's a very uh, challenging time in the sense of being indoors, more often, right? Due to the extreme cold weather, and that is a lot of time to, or where people can fall into the, you know, eating at a boredom and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? So, not being able to be outdoors where you are so easily able to maneuver without having to deal with the cold weather. What what let me keep it down because my son he not feeling well. So let me just, so what is it that you're able to become creative or innovative to where you could deal with, where you could still stay the course and stay focused with your workouts, or just the things that are going to constantly improve yourself as an individual during this time of having more indoor time, and how is that taken advantage of, right? Because it's so easy, again, to fall into that whole sort of sit around and get caught up in certain bad habits, right? To overindulge. You see what I'm saying? So this is where this could have more of a effect to where, you know, of losing focus, so to speak. And the weather, the atmosphere, it it has that, it can have that effect, right? Because it is very cold outside, right? I haven't been working out outside, and I'm the one that emphasizes how much I relish and enjoy working out in the cold and stuff like that, and I do. But this weather, right, below 20, below, we talking about 12 degrees, and I'm super good on that. You know what I mean? I'm not uh, relishing in that type of weather at all, you know. But one thing for sure is that I could say is this, is that I've been getting in that car and I've been taking it to the gym, right? I'll do some home workouts. I'll hit my push-ups. I'll stay the course, right? And doing a very, very good job at it. And I wanted to talk about how this is a time where, again, this is the perfect season where you could put in the work and take advantage in the sense of having the least amount of distractions, right? Because on one hand, you're indoors most of the time. You're spending a lot of time at home, which is a good thing, right? It gives you more time to be with family, friends, or whatever the case may be. It's you know, you're being in close proximity, compared more so compared to if the weather was nice outside and you can just get up and be on the go, back and forth at your leisure, right? So at this time, that's not really the case, right? Of course, we're talking like right now, currently, outside, it's 15 below, right? There's nothing going on out there unless you have a destination, and most likely, you know, having to jump in and out of your car and going in and out of the cold. That's not that fun, right? Or, you know, it's definitely uh, the least amount of doing so. So you're not so uh, willing to, you know, be outside. Of course not. So, but again, we're able to still, peace. What's happening, Fresh? You all ready? You know, we're still able to take advantage of this time to get a good workout in, right? To catch up on our studies, right? To, again, spend more time with family, catch up on, you know, some interaction, you know, minus social media and things of that nature. But again, the point I was getting at is to thank you Fresh for that, is to still take advantage of this time, because this is the time of the season where what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're prepping in terms of the betterment of you and working on yourself, by the time that warm weather arrives, right? By the time that, because now we're in February, soon we'll be in March. So the time in which you're sort of behind the curtain, right? To give an analogy, the curtain of where you're in closed doors during this time of the season, everything that we're formulating or working on, building, developing, uh, increasing in terms of the work, the needed, that's when now the the warm weather season approaches, and then now once we step out, that brand new you from the the process of the new taking place has been pushed in gear. You see what I'm saying? Has been pushed in gear. So I just wanted to take the time out tonight, just check the temperature and just share that, of course, indeed, I've been staying the course, and already I'm ready for the warmer season that's approaching. And it's no rush, right? We're not there yet, but I wanted to remind those that there is still time to put in that necessary work to be ahead of the game, especially for those who are beginners, right? In the sense of the working out, and you know, you want to uh, and improve with the weight loss and everything that is a contribution to you, you know, uh, developing this brand new physical vehicle, right? By way of the training, by way of the working out, you could take advantage of this time of the year where the least distractions, meaning you solely could give more attention to you without having to be at this event, that event. Not that you can't live your life, but again, this is the time where you can get more into you. So, like I said, I just wanted to make mention of that. And so, are you are you able to still be motivated within you, right? Because the motivation that is received from someone else's story or someone else's feedback or someone else's example of the results from the work that they put in is a very temporary um, motivating factor in terms of you applying what is needed to actually obtain the experience of the results with uh, doing what is required in order to have the same experience for oneself. You see? So, Huss, shout out to Rush in the chat, fellow fitness enthusiasts all over the world for sure. Shout it out, yeah, to Russia, you heard? Yes. But, yeah, so again, you know, that word motivation, you know, I'm gonna talk about that just a little bit, right? Um, and motivation is a powerful word, but like anything else, there is a flip side to it too, right? Or there's another side of the coin, right? Of motivation, um, because we could be motivated in two different ways, right? For the greater good or for the worse. You see what I'm saying? Motivation could revolve around taking shortcuts. You see? Um, and what I mean by that is motivation. Motivation. Let's look at that word, right? Motivation is to be excited, to look forward to, right? To it's a level of enthusiasm, right? It's a level of admiration to want it for yourself, right? To you know, to having uh you know, having or seemingly at the moment having a desire to want to do more, right? Depending on what that motivation uh, source that is influencing a person's, you know, drive, right? And so, but motivation has different paths, I would say, and people get motivated in different ways, right? Again, for the greater good or for the worse, right? And what do I mean by that? What I mean is you got, I would say you have healthy motivation and you got unhealthy motivation, right? And it's not just about fitness. You know what I'm saying? You know, when I start, building on these words, topics, and you know, it, I like to put it in the form of food for thought, right? Not just in the sense, not just in the aspect of one way, right? Of seeing or defining um, a certain word, right? That is very meaningful. You see what I'm saying, right? Because there's always two sides to the coin, right? The yin and yang of life. So that's why I like to, propose these food for thoughts in the way that I expound on these topics and stuff. So yeah, like I said, motivation can go in two different ways, right? People could be motivated, and that motivation leads to an unexpected crash out, right? Um, Motivation can come from the wrong person, right? Motivation can um, have, as they say, smoke screens, right? Motivation could uh, be influenced by what appears to be real and it's not, right? So it's many different ways, in terms of, motivation. And I choose to bring up topics to where we look at it in two different ways or many different ways, right? Because again, and it goes back to the mental health, right? The perception, that how and what and why we do what we do. You feel me? And I would say too, it kind of sharpens our discernment, as I always say, in terms of how we look at things. And you know so it's important, to have an open mind and to be able to just analyze, what can seem to be so positive, but yet there is that side in which, it can start off in that way, but then go against a person, right? Again, depending on that source or that outlet or that individual where, that influence is, being, you know um being shared, so that a person, could be given some encouragement and what have you. You see. So I was thinking about that, right? Because and you're not gonna. So the thing is, right? You could be motivated, and what is being. So what I mean is this, right? You could be motivated with the underlining peer pressure, kind of like. So let me explain, right? Again, because motivation is a form of influence to take action, right? and I know I'm repeating myself with in that, but again, this is the point that I'm making, is that when you're motivated, you wanna you wanna experience you want to experience a certain reality from that motivation, right? And this is what I'm getting at. And it still could be more of a detriment than of a healthier experience. Because you could be motivated, right? So we're going to keep it on fitness. You could be motivated with fitness, and then, but like I said, the shortcut aspect, you could be motivated and at the same time not be motivated because the work itself is not so exciting per se. So then people then makes a choice to take a shortcut where it's something that, for example, some form of enhancement now gives you that extra energy, a feeling of being stronger, right? So initially that motivation came from, again, that desire to want to take action and experience a certain reality of looking better, feeling better, thinking better, right? All of the above. But the work in itself still requires the challenge, the sacrifice, right? The uncertainty of what to truly expect within that journey of, right? Of whatever that goal or expectation for one's desire, if you will, right? So, and then motivation could come with some level of peer pressure, right? Because you could be amongst a crowd, if like you could be involved with a person that, and it starts off with motivation, and then again the requirements to actually obtain a certain reality from what it is you're seeking for yourself, and what it requires in between that. Now it's not so motivating, but now you've kind of made a commitment by expressing your enthusiasm and not wanting to reconsider a certain choice, because the reality is, in order to get to that certain destination, you feel what I'm saying, that you're feeling a feeling of unwillingness now, right? But in order to now prove to, that of again a person, right? It happens every day with people presenting themselves in one way and then feeling like they're now locked in to what they what feels like they've made some form of a commitment, but it started off with a feeling of motivation. And it doesn't just have to be fitness either. You see what I'm saying, right? Because it's sometimes things take a little while before you realize that, hold on, I'm taking a path, or I'm going in a direction that now I'm unsure about, but the motivation initially has led me on this unwanted journey now, right? Once you get to a certain point, and it's very hard, or it seems to be very hard to turn back. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I said it's motivation sort of, it can come in it can have an underlining form of peer pressure too, right? Because most people are trying to find themselves, and by finding themselves, they looking for, they're seeking out a connection. Um, you want to, be able to trust, right, people, and that's a very uh, it's a very how can I say it? But you get the point, and so again, motive, and I'll get back to what I'm saying with this point at hand right now with that, right? So, but not to be long-winded, I said enough with that. But again, when we talking about motivation, is it healthy or unhealthy, right? So, and then you have the healthy motivation, right? You have the healthy motivation, and I'm gonna kind of, as I further, make these points, I be able to, sort of go back and emphasize more on what it was that, I didn't hit on exactly, but then the dialogue, right? So, but then you have the healthy motivation, right? Because let me stay on course with that. So you have the healthy motivation where you're, again, right? We talking about motivation is an excitement, is looking forward to increase your drive, your desire. You want to take action. You want to experience. You want to feel better than. Motivation is to get you moving, right? To get you in the space of, wanting to do. Okay, so we got to go back to that, and then now get back to the healthy motivation, right? And the healthy motivation is, that in which gives you a clear example, description, example of what that healthy motivation really entails, right? To sort of to give you a healthier guidance, right? To healthy suggestions, encouragement, right? Realistic, right? You have that type of motivation, right? The motivation to where, you know, you are being shown in a way that you're being and whatever that path is, you're being shown in a way that that those you're being shown in a way where the steps are gonna be more so in the best benefits for you, right? With a realistic outlook, things of that nature. So because, and I say the word motivation because especially when it like comes to social media, right? But both, not social media and real life. You feel what I'm saying? So again, discernment really is needed to understand what it is that's best for us to get the best benefits, again, in a way that we have a realistic way of how what takes place in that journey goes in our favor, right? And so then we look at the word like motivation, right? Motivation, it's like it's temporary, right? It's temporary, and I see because, and I'm gonna use this too, right? So when I say temporary, in the moment you could feel ready. In the moment you could feel like you want you want everything that your imagination is getting you psyched up to want to receive from what that motivation involves, right? But again, going back to the work that is needed in order for that reality to be obtained, that's a whole different story. And again, within that journey, depending on the people, places, and things, right, from where that motivation initially started, right? Because you could be online, and I'm gonna go back to the social media, you could be motivated to make a certain decision on buying a house, going on a certain trip, but it still requires a high level of discernment, right, in order to make certain decisions in between that in which motivated you to want to do so and heighten your enthusiasm for that goal, right? For that achievement, for that experience, if you will, right? So I just say that because now I know I started off initially with the weather, right? And it's like, how does that correlate with the rest of what I'm saying? Because, and it goes together because this is the time of the year, right? Where when we're talking about being indoors, and if you're serious about, like, right, the true change fitness wise, are you able to get the same experience with a home workout compared to a workout at the gym or at the park, right? Now, I kind of I started there, and then I went into a whole different direction with the motivate. I just wanted to give, and I went in a whole different direction with examples of healthy motivation and unhealthy motivation, right? Because you could be, and I'm just gonna go back and forth a little bit, like I said, as things come to mind, to where it really comes together and really sums up this entire um, point and what I mean with the whole motivation definition, in the way I see it, right? Or how my mind is um, looking at one word in many different ways, okay? So building momentum is key. That's a fact. So right. So building momentum, and that's the work, Fresh. You know what I'm saying? Oh, how many days off from working out are too much? 2 or 3 days? I'm glad you asked that question, Fresh. 3 days is too much, but it's not. Let me tell you why. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that again, because we got to be open minded. It depends the level of intensity with your workout. You see what I'm saying? So if you're doing, depending on, again, whatever that workout is, if it's very high intensity, right? If it's very demanding, right? So if you do, for example, if you do a workout of, let's just say, 500 weighted burpees and all that, you see what I'm saying? If you're doing these high demand workouts, if you're doing that, let's say 2 and 3 days out the week, then you've earned to take off 3 days. So let's do the math, right? It's 7 days in a week, and if you're doing burpees, if you're doing 500 burpees, a routine, weighted, right, or just 500 burpees, I'm talking about nothing else, no calisthenics, no weight, just burpees, and you did that 500 3 days out the week, or four, right? Because you asked me if it was 2 or 3 days is too much. But if you're doing these high demand workouts, at least the minimum 3 days a week, and you're doing a high rep count with such a demanding workout, I would say you can afford to take off 3 days. You see what I'm saying? Because that's a lot of work, right? And it depends too on a person's fitness level, okay? Because that 3 days of 500 burpees, that could be a walk in the park for many people. So it varies, you know what I'm saying, in terms of that. But one thing for sure, as I could say, is this, is that if one is certain and absolutely sure that you have given yourself a significant and beyond the amount of work required in order to have really given yourself more than plenty or plenty, you could determine to take those rest days off, because rest is very important, right? So then, depending on how the days are arranged, right? So if you're doing 3 days straight of high demand workouts, I don't see nothing wrong with taking 2 days off straight, right? But then we have to also include this factor, right, of active rest days, okay? So that could be also included in the rest aspect of taking days off, you know what I'm saying, but still being active, an active rest day of where you're doing something, but it's a very, very low demand, but you're just keeping the body in gear. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you know, yeah, let me keep it down because my son, he not feeling well. He sleep over there. Let me keep it down, y'all, so I know you can hear me. But yeah, that's a great question. You know, how many days off from working out are too much? You know, like I said, it all depends on, you know, the level of, you know, your fitness status and how much you how much work you putting forth. You know what I'm saying? And you'll know if you really, you know, achieve that deserved rest. You know what I'm saying? For real. You know, so it's many factors with that. But one thing I could say for sure is that, you know, each and every week, one should at least get at least 4 days of some serious working out. 4 days, I would say, is the minimum that a person should be doing in a week of working out. That I can tell you, right? Um, and then there's, you know, and that's really what it is. You know, it's other factors too in terms of, you know, what it is that you do on a daily in terms of outside of actually working out and the level of, you know, uh, you know, the amount of energy that you exert, you know, or just on a daily basis. But if you, you know, no excuses. You know what I'm saying? If when it comes to this fitness, you know, I gotta carve out time, plenty of time to get to this money. But so yeah, so with the motivating factor, you know, so let me get back to that word, the motivation, and it's a temporary thing, and that's what I wanted to really hit home with too. Again, is that motivation is a spark, but can one keep that fire lit? And with that motivation, right? And I wanted to share those points that I was saying earlier. I just want to make this clear one more time because when we're talking about being motivated in an unhealthy way, you can have a workout partner, right? And you feel motivated in the presence of this person, and they can have a person in a compromising position, meaning I'm just going to give one example because I'm not going to go get into a whole long drawn out thing, but you you know, you could be with somebody, let's just say, where the person you're working out with, they're supposed to be spotting you on the bench press, and then they halfway spot you knowing that you are struggling, right? But you was motivated to get the workout and you was excited to be in the company of this person and not know that, you know what I'm saying, they got underlying, you know what I'm saying, intentions to kind of, you know, get entertainment off of sort of not being the best support in terms of doing exercises properly, making sure that you're safe and things of that nature, right? And I'm just going to sort of leave it at that. Because even when it comes to this fitness, right, and the motivation of what seems to be in good company could also be um, not so good company where you're dealing with a person that is really not a good support with, and this really pertains to those who are sort of starting out, right? And again, because when we talking about fitness, it is ultimately supposed to be positive, right? And but there is negativity in the mix of it. You know what I'm saying? So, and I mention these things because it's just, again, to raise discernment on, even when it comes to fitness and wanting to be productive, wanting to do better. You know what I'm saying? I just really like to sort of highlight both sides of, when we talking about certain topics or words that represent more of a positive, representation of these things, man, because I'm a broad thinker, I do a lot of analyzing, right? I don't, and it's a wonderful thing, right? Because you got to see things in a certain light that might not necessarily um, is able to be seen, you know, uh, you know what I'm saying? So, that's why I bring up the conversation in a way of food for thought, right? Like I've said before, I said this before. You could be around people like the word genuine, right? You got people that are genuinely evil, and you have people that are genuinely kind, right? Or genuinely good people, right? Because a person could be genuine in causing other people harm, whether it's physical, verbal, emotional. You feel what I'm saying? And their intentions are genuine. They want to go forward with that type of behavior. You see what I'm saying? So, again, there's always a flip side to the coin when it comes to, the very things that are supposed to be, all positive. You feel me? So I started off, like I said, with the weather, and which is a great question, because when we're talking about, you see all this, the motivation um, on social media, but the work that is required in order to actually get results, whether it's working out or just in life in general, you know what I'm saying? Are you ready to stay the course, or are you able to, uh, with that spark of the motivation, be able to proceed with a high level of discernment with the choices that uh, are involved with that motivating um, initial decision to, you know, go through with that journey of what it is you're seeking, and what it is that you want to experience, and what reality you want to create for yourself, right? So, you know, I just thought it was interesting for me to bring that up, especially right now with the cold weather. And, you know, it could seem that uh, there's more limitations, right? And it's, how I see it, more of an advantage. But it requires, again, so that self certainty, belief. Um, you got to dig a little deeper within to bring to the surface uh, what you're able to produce under these circumstances of a time that's not so motivating, right? When the days are more cloudier than sunny, you know. So, and again, I just say it's just many different ways to see what does motivation mean, and does it hold strong in terms of the work, right? Getting up in the morning, and even though it's extremely cold outside, to get in that car, to warm up and go to that gym, to become innovative in your home and use whatever's available as workout equipment and still get the job done with your routine that you have created, right? So, like I said, that word motivation is more temporary than what it really requires in order to hold firm and allow that to be carried, that the definition the definition of that word to be carried, to be kept alive throughout the journey with the work, right? And again, we could be motivated in an unhealthy way or a healthier way, you know. So it's like I said, I started with the weather, and then I gave examples of being motivated in the wrong way, right? And then I could say it, one can be motivated to obtain more money, right? Because you have that desire, but what comes along after that initial feeling of motivation, what it entails afterwards is, it's a whole different story. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to make mention of it again too, because you know what I'm saying, it's just, it seems, I mean, it's like that saying goes, like, don't believe the hype, sort of, right? It's not that you, and it's not a bad thing. Motivation that's not a bad thing, right? People do need encouragement, right? That's motivation. Enlightenment, that's some motivation. Education, that's motivation, right? It's not just somebody, you know, you know, highlighting something that, or embellishing, or, you know, glorifying just to get somebody enthusiastic about something in life, or to whatever that may be. But at the same time, it's a, an initial feeling from the beginning, and then what else is following that feeling of being motivated. And this is the perfect time, and I'm repeating myself, that this is not such a motivating season per se, unless you're a person that could really tap into it and find that, or to uh, be innovative, and to keep your fire lit. You see what I'm saying? I went to the gym today. I had an awesome workout. And it's beyond motivation for me, right? Um, my motivation, if I'm gonna be motivated, I'm motivated from the fact that regardless of the season, or relying on anything outside of me, or relying on something outside of me, it's a great feeling to be able to be beyond motivated, right? So the beautiful thing is, and not just with the fitness, but to be able to find appreciation, or not find, yeah, to tap into, to find, right? That's okay to say that. To be able to find, to be able to tap into, to be able to remain in the space of within your higher self, even in a so-called time that would be more so looked at as uh, more difficult to be within this, that, you know, optimism frequency, right? Within, you know, I'm just here to make mention also that that's where true self-assurance, you know, that you know what I'm saying, you kicked in gear with that. You know, so I've been playing the gym close since this severe cold weather. Now, I like to be out in the cold. I've expressed that. I relish in it, but not this type of cold. You know what I'm saying? I don't see, and what really I don't appreciate about the cold in terms of the working out aspect, like, it's so cold out there that I wouldn't be able to take off my shirt. I like to start removing garments or whatever, and I'm just saying, like, it's very cold. I don't even, you know what I'm saying, want to battle with that. But what I'm saying, I still go to that gym, and one thing for sure, I will walk in that cold weather. I've been walking to the gym lately, by the way, right? For one reason, I don't want to lose my parking spot. I don't want to lose my parking spot. You know what I'm saying? So I'm walking to that gym, backpack and all. My backpack be loaded. Sneakers, sweats, my weight belt chain, sneakers, my resistant bands. Um, you know, my water bottle, which is filled, so that's another what, 1 pound, 1.5 pounds, it's all additional weight in that backpack. And I'm walking to that gym in this weather. I'm suited up, right? I'm not working out outside. But again, this goes beyond the motivation factor because I'm so gun ho about going to get my workout in. I'm trooping it to that gym. And again, being able to self assess, clear my mind, you know, and to uh, just be able to take in my surroundings, even though I'm familiar, I know everything, just to be able to look around and be able to observe things along the way of that walk, right? It gives me time to not be in the car, you know what I'm saying? Every stop of the way or whatever the case may be. What I mean is, I'm in a vehicle so often, a great walk is a beautiful thing. And again, I'm pointing out with what I'm saying right now, it's beyond motivation, okay? So that can't be, or again, the motivation is an initial spark, but to light that flame is a whole different story. To keep that fire burning, to increase the heat, right? The temperature. You feel what I'm saying? And that requires consistency within feeding, right? Those desires that, to be able to get more than what you bargained for with, that said desire, that said benefit, right? Um, that said experience, right? Each and every day. And that's what I do enjoy about this time of the year where um, it kind of, for me, it's like it antagonizes that rebellious in me because it's like, what? It ain't too cold for me. That's not stopping nothing, right? Um, I'm indoors. That doesn't give me. Again, it goes beyond the motivation, right? Now we're spending more time at home or indoors. You see, it's gonna test, and it's gonna test the discipline, right? To not eat out of boredom, to not order Uber Eats, right? But this is a time to take advantage of. So again, it's two sides to the coin. It's the perfect time of the year to do more cooking, to do more home meals, right? Because you have the time, right? And instead of running out to go buy food, make that one stop, get your groceries, come home, cook, prepare your meals. You see what I'm saying? And for me, at least, and I've been doing new recipes too. I'm gonna get back to the cooking. I got a new recipe. It's a pasta dish or whatever. I mean, it ain't too different, but it's a different recipe. Um, the first time I've ever made meatloaf was somewhat of 3 weeks ago. The first time I've ever made meatloaf. So, and that's just an example of what can be taken advantage of with this time spent indoors, right? And that's what it is. I wanted to, again, with the word motivation, especially at a time of the year where, you know, um, you have to to that motivation is not so it's not at its highest, you know, frequency of the word, right? Because it's easy when it's beautiful and the weather is in your favor to be motivated. Oh, I'm gonna go out and jog today. Oh, I'm gonna go out and do this. Oh, I'm gonna go do that. Right? You know, when the odds are against us, or what seems to be against us, are we able to, you see, go forward with that same desire under these conditions with the weather and still get the job done, still push forward, still have a high level of enthusiasm. You see what I'm saying? So I just wanted to just expound on that real quick. I've been on here for a minute, but yeah, catch it on the playback if you choose. You know what I'm saying? Greetings from Barbados. Salute. Yeah, so but what is it that we're able to take advantage of, during this time of the year, especially when it's so cold outside? And I just thought about that today, actually leaving the gym, and that's what I said. You know what? Let me just, present this to the people, just my thoughts, and just looking at that. And I was watching something also that was dealing with motivation, or and I was like, this is the perfect time, or a good time for me to bring up that what that representation of the word, what does that mean, or what is the impact of the motivation at a time where movement is limited in terms of moving at within these conditions, moving at your leisure, having to deal with extreme cold weather. So I don't know, it was just on my mind, so I figured, you know what I'm saying, I come through and again, just give it some food for thought. You feel what I'm saying? Because I definitely been staying the course, it has to be highlighted, because it just may be needed, not just from a motivation standpoint, but to remind those who could use, what I'm saying, these words in order to get back on track. You feel me? So again, the beauty of being able to still push forward, at a time where, you know what I'm saying, it's not so comfortable, and not so comfortable with the conditions that, make people want to stay more, within indoors. You know what I'm saying? Word. But yeah, stay the course. You know what I'm saying? So real quick, right? I worked out today. I did burpees. Did a great workout today. So I did burpees. I did the jump rope, of course. I've been hitting that jump rope a lot lately. a lot. But that's my thing though, that jump rope. Been hitting that jump rope a lot. You feel what I'm saying? But did the hanging leg raises. I did I worked on my chest because I want to work on my upper chest. So I've been doing the cables. You know what I'm saying? To hit the upper chest. So I've been working on that. Um, I did that within the workout tonight. Well, earlier today, I did the decline push-ups. Again, I'm working on my upper chest. I want to get that more pronounced. Um, I said the jump rope, did the cables. I did some sit-ups. You know what I'm saying? I did the hanging leg raises. I did a bunch of those. You know, those hanging leg raises um, really target. You know what I'm saying? Those abs a great deal. And what else did I do? That was it. That was it. So I did the burpees. I did the hanging leg raises. I did the sit ups, and I did the cable. I did the cable chest press. You know, and it was extremely motivating. And let me say this too, right? You know, for me personally, it goes beyond motivation. You know, and I just love to highlight the fact that um, you know, every time you know, I mean, wow, what a feeling, man. This whole fitness thing, what a feeling. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at least for me, um, every time I work, it's on a yo, fitness is on the forefront of my mind so much that maybe that's unhealthy. What you think? I mean, that might just be my next subject. You know, tonight the whole motivation thing. I don't know. I guess I kind of said enough about that. You feel what I'm saying? But again, it goes beyond the motivation. You know, and I wanted to really hit home with that too. It takes more than just motivation to really receive the full benefits of success, to achieving your goals, you know. um and besides, see, you know, there are days too, let me just add this, that I'm not so enthusiastic about going to work out. I do have days like that. They're very, 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 very far and in between, though. Let me just say that. But one thing I could say for sure, once I get started, I'm so glad that I didn't give in to the thought of not showing up, not putting in the work, not doing what is required in order for me to progress, to maintain, or in beyond maintain, and to do what I need in order to, you know what I'm saying, stay at my best, to be on my game, to, you know, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Um, and before I close out, you know, surround yourself with genuine, you know, people who got your best interests at heart. You know what I'm saying? On some really, really, and that's what I was getting at too, about, you know, that whole motivation thing. Hopefully, that motivation is coming from somebody who really got your best interests at heart. and I appreciate y'all who have the patience, to hear me out and to, to your best ability to understand the points that I try to make and connect and, you know, uh, give certain comparisons and again the food for thought. You know what I'm saying? Um, for real, for real. You know, let me stop saying I gotta work on that too. Said it again. Yes, you gotta work on that. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I do appreciate you all. That take out the time and you know piece together. How I share the philosophy of what my outlook of what my outlook is with the way I go about speaking on a topic and to make sense of again the different ways of how we could see things in a different light, you know, because they there are so many ways to analyze something that is presented in one way, and it really requires many different ways to see the meaning that is a broader perspective of seeing life. You know what I'm saying? For real, for real. And that's why I say again, motivation that goes beyond just that moment of feeling excited, driven, and this is when it comes to this fitness. Yo, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. And it go beyond the physical. Believe me when I tell you, you are. Believe me when I tell you, you know what I'm saying? It goes beyond the physical. And with that same energy to be applied in many different aspects of life, you know what I'm saying? Like to have such a love, have a passion, something that you could do every single day and not get tired of it. And there's levels to that though, right? I'm talking about something that really improves your life though. I ain't talking about some, a habit of, right? Because people do things that they love to do every single day, all day, every day, and there's no benefits to it. You feel me? So I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about especially the things that you can make a living from, right? Where you can earn big and be able to, take care of others, right? In terms of family and, people that deserve to partake in the fruits of your labor off of something that you're able to earn from, that you love doing, you know. And that's another thing too, you know. I keep saying, you know, but there are, you know, people live each and every day unable to be in that space of doing something that you love, that you have a passion for, that increases your enthusiasm for life, and also be an outlet to get back on track if needed. You know what I'm saying? You know, a form of, not just a form of, but purpose. You see? Purpose, to have a reason to live another day, you know, to increase your fight for life. Again, appreciate, to have value, right? That increases your 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 desire to, or to increase again your gratitude, you know, your appreciation. I know I'm repeating myself, and it's great for, I would say, for character. It's great for character, you know. So yeah, I know I started off with the motivation factor, you know, of the topic at hand. You know what I'm saying? But that is beyond motivation. You know, that's beyond motivation. When you have a skill, you know, when you love doing something, and then again you can earn from it. It's beyond motivation, to where you can spend hours talking, thinking, pondering, sharing, developing, creating. Purpose. It's a beautiful thing. So this is a wonderful way for me to close out on the, speaking of motivation. That's an initial spark, like I said. To be a teacher, to be an instructor, to be a, you know, to be in a position within, with that passion, with that increased daily desire of that, whatever it is that you're wired in such a way, and you have so much of it, you have a unlimited resource within your makeup, It's a beautiful thing. And that goes beyond motivation. That's what I'm saying too, you know? And that's a beautiful thing, you know? Yes, it is. I wake up in the morning and I'm talking about straight out the bed and just I can get to the push-ups, whatever. Many a days I just talking about, yo, no, and I know it ain't, yo, and I just run out the door. From the moment I put my feet to the ground and just get dressed. I've done this many a mornings, just got dressed, just, and ran out the door, shot out, just took a 5-6 mile jog. Get out the bed before I do anything else, and knock out 500 push-ups. But I'm gonna tell you this though before I close out. When the weather starts to get better in the morning, I'm gonna start getting back up early, like 3 in the morning. I'm gonna start my workouts like 4 in the morning. It's beyond motivation. To work out, I'm talking about full throttle workout so early in the day, in the morning, to start your day, and then as you go forward in your day, you have to remind yourself that you even did that workout prior to the rest of your day taking off. It's beyond motivation. I gotta write this in a book, y'all. You see what I'm saying? I gotta write this in a book. Probably start a book like with 100 pages or something. You feel me? Word. But I'm gonna say this though on the closeout. It's a beautiful thing when your cup is overflowing with something that you truly love doing. You heard? That's beyond motivation, man. Have a good discernment of where your motivation is coming from. All right? If you're gonna be make sure that motivation is coming from those who have your best interests at heart. There's a such thing as false motivation. I would say I never heard it, but I'm telling you, because that's another reality. People motivate people in the wrong direction just as much as people are motivated in the right direction. So if I didn't make sense in how I shared these points of the different ways of looking at motivation, ultimately you still had a way of where you could see motivation in different ways for yourself. I just presented, all I did was present food for thought. But requires more than motivation for us to really experience the actual benefits of what the work requires. When people think of the think of the rich and wealthy, nobody, I'm not going to say nobody, but I would say that more focus is placed on the glitz and the glam of the lifestyle, of the material, rather than the boardroom meetings, the the sacrifice that it requires, the convincing, the closing the deal, the lawyers, the everything in between in order to get to that fortune, to get to those treasures, right? That goes beyond motivation. It's sacrifice. It's fortitude, right? So the same thing goes for fitness. The same thing goes for the process, the journey, right? And then through that process and journey, those that we come into contact with, those who we deal with to get to each step of the way. And that's what I mean by, are they a healthy motivator factor or unhealthy motivator factor, to where it requires your discernment that's gonna lead up to the best or the worst of what you desire, for what you seek and what you are creating for your life, for your reality, right? And I just wanted to close out on that, because I know the initial start off of my topics and subjects, at times it takes me a moment to put the ingredients of the food for thought together in order for the ultimate, you know, recipe of the, you know what I'm saying, of the meal to be presented. You feel me? So, you know, I'm just presenting a different way in how we see the meaning of that word motivation. Because all it is an initial, it's just a spark. But can that spark be turned into a flame? And be able to light up, to be able to hold that, keep the heat turned up, just like your energy. You know, how they say, you know, I'm turned up, right? You could be turned up in the club, or you could be turned up with your studies, right? It's many different ways. It's always a flip. It's always a different side to the coin. It's always the yin and yang of life. And that's what I like to present with these subjects. As they say, it's more than one way to skin a cat. All of that is that these different analogies of seeing something different. That's what it means. You know, so I'm just a person that I analyze, I think a lot, and that's a beautiful thing. To have an imagination, to wonder, to fantasize, to daydream, it's beautiful. Don't lose sight of that. And again, that's having a healthy mind. That's to think outside the box, to see things in your own, have your own perspective. To not be easily convinced with things that could be looked at, again, in so many different ways. You know? So again, I appreciate you all, and I see you right now. I know you in the building. I appreciate y'all who took the time out and hit that like button. Sure, much gratitude, you heard? This is beyond motivation for me in terms of connecting with the people. If it was about the numbers and all of that, I'd have left it alone a long time ago. But I'm with it. I'm certain. You feel me? I enjoy doing this. You know, I can give you reasons why this means so much to me. And a lot of it stemmed from situations where I might have been deprived by way of poor choices and things of that nature. I'm not somewhere, you know, doing anything that I could, so you get it. Yeah, I appreciate all y'all who have shown up for me tonight. Salute to y'all, you heard? Shout out to Fresh. Shout out to FBA. I know you was in the building. You know, those who have, shout out to Russia. You know, shout out to Dan Roy from Barbados. Shout out to y'all who quietly sat and gave me some form of your attention. Appreciate you, for sure. And I shall return and show up again. But before I close out, now I'm really about to wrap it up. Shut shop down for the night. But I wanted to say this though too. We're gonna get back. I'm gonna get back to the working out. I want to get back definitely to that working out, right? Because I want to be able to. We can have the dialogue, but we gotta put in the work. But I want to also show up, and I have to let you know, I gotta remind you that I'm staying the course and I'm holding you accountable. I'm holding me accountable. And how we do that is by connecting and making sure that we are staying the course. And I'm definitely doing that. Don't let that below 20-degree weather stop you. You get in that vehicle, or you get in your living room, you get in that vehicle, go to the gym, or you get in your living room, you know what I'm saying? And you get to it. No excuses. This goes beyond motivation, all right? Catch you on the next go around.